Okay, so now we are going to get right into the guts of footprint roofs. Let's go over to page 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to recreate this roof, and I'll do this with all of you folks. So if you want to just draw some walls, it doesn't really matter, you know, if you've got a level set up for your roof yet or not. That's not so critical. It's just important that you have some walls in place so we can show you how this works. Now, so I'm going to grab the footprint roof command from the architecture tab. Now, first thing to note here is that Revit puts you in pick walls mode. And when this happens, Revit also gives an overhang value where you can enter in the desired overhang for the roof. Now, if you're looking for where that overhang is, if you look on page 2 of the notes, you can see there's a 1 foot dimension there. So we're going to correlate that 1 foot dimension to our overhang value up here on the options bar. And you'll see here, extend to wall core. Now, that is the industry standard. And what that means is, when you specify an overhang of some value from your truss provider, they measure it from the face of plywood. So if you look on page 2, the roof overhang is calculated from the face of plywood to the back side of the fascia. And that's just like it's done in real life when you get a roof ordered from your truss manufacturer. So typically you will check the box for extend into wall core, and then you put your cursor over one of the walls. Now, if you've adjusted the overhang value, you'll notice that my cursor is still flashing in the overhang value box. I need to get that cursor out of there just by clicking in white space in the drawing area. Now that that is done, I can do what I need to show you here. You put your cursor over the wall, and you can see by moving your cursor a few pixels from side to side, that controls which side of the wall that the overhang is put on. So obviously we want it on the outside of the wall. And now hit the tab key once, just tap it once with your finger, and it's going to select all connected walls all the way around the building. And then you click. So this is hover tab click. So let me just undo, Control Z. So I've got pick walls, extend to wall core checked, hover, tab, click. Now, just like floor objects and a few of the other sorts of things that we've been showing to you in Revit already, these pink lines that you see on the outside, you can only have one line in each location. You can't have duplicates. And you can't have gaps. So I just went to modify mode here. You can't have this. You can't have an infinitesimal little gap in here. Revit will not like that. Likewise, Revit will not accept overshoots. So you have to use the trim command, if necessary, to clean that up. Now, when you're first getting started with Revit, sometimes when you're making these edits, you'll have two lines over top of each other or slightly overlapping. So here, if I use the split command, don't do this, I'm just showing you a problem. I've got these two pieces sitting here. And you know, you're looking at it, you're not really paying attention, you're like, hey, no problem, right? Well, when you finish, Revit will tell you that there's a problem, and you'll see the little orange dots so that you can continue and look for the problem. So kind of just put your cursor over it and you can see what's going on, and delete the extra one that you don't need. Now, what you've probably already noticed is that these pink lines have a little triangle icon beside them. That lets you know that that eave is slope defining. So what that means is we have a hip roof here. Every single eave line generates slope. If you want a gable end at one side, you simply select that eave line and uncheck the box Define Slope, or you can right click on it and choose Toggle Slope Defining. That works as well. And now you'll notice that that triangle icon is gone. So when we finish the roof, indeed, we get a gable end. Now, what if you want to have multiple slopes in your roof? Now, I should just note here, if you want to make an edit to your roof, put your cursor on one of the lines for the roof, not the face, the line, and double click it. And that will take you back inside the roof sketch. Yeah, what if you want to have multiple slopes for your roof? Now, if all of your slope defining lines have the same slope, you'll see in the properties box that there is a slope value here. So I could change this all to 6 and 12, and now this will be a 6 and 12 roof. In fact, you don't even need to edit the roof to change the slope of the roof. So here, we'll do this in 3D. So there's my roof. And if I simply select the roof, and there's a slope value here, I can make this a 3 and 12 roof now. So you don't need to edit the sketch of the roof to change the slope if all of your eaves have the same slope. But what if we want to have varying slopes? So let's say that I take these two eaves on the sides and I want to make them a lower slope. No problem with that. I select those two eaves, hold down the Control key, pick the eave lines that I want involved in the process, and I go over to the Properties palette and I change their slopes to 3 and 12. So it's done, but with some minor problems here, actually not so minor. What in the world? What is Revit doing here? Well, this goes back to how Revit develops slope, and let's look at page 2 of our notes. I'll just draw this up on the board here. Well, I would if there was any markers there. Okay. Okay, so I'll just talk you through it. So if you look in the notes here, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some super professional Windows Paint action here. Okay, so if you've got your walls, oh boy, that's going to be painful. Okay, here we go. So here's my wall, and what we're going to do is talk about how roof slope is developed. Now have a look at page 2, and on the left, the bottom note and the top note on the left. If you're using the Pick Walls tool, what Revit does is it develops the slope starting at the top of the wall. So if you're doing like a 6 and 12 slope, it starts at the wall, goes down at 6 and 12 until it gets to the overhang, and that is how the roof slope is developed. If you just simply draw lines, so here in Revit, instead of just using the Pick Walls tool, right, which is the default mode that you're put in, if you simply draw those lines in place, now there's two problems. Number one, a roof line that's drawn with the line tool does not maintain its relationship to the walls. It'll just sit there. So if I were to draw this top roof edge with the line tool instead of using pick walls, what happens if this wall moves up and down? Well, if that happens, this roof line is not going to move with it. So that's the first problem. Now, the other problem, I guess, is that if you draw lines with the lines tool instead of using pick walls, what Revit does is it starts from the top of the wall and then goes out to wherever the roof overhang is, and that's where it starts the eave from. So now it's going to draw it higher. So when you're using the pick walls tool for placing the lines of your roof, it will put those eave lines lower than if you had just drawn them in using the lines tool instead of pick walls. Now, how do we solve this problem that we saw moments ago where the eaves aren't lining up? And why is Revit doing this? Well, the reason Revit is doing this is that you've got two different roof slopes, but they're being developed from the outside edge of the wall. So for a lower sloped roof, Revit is doing this. Same amount of overhang, but starting from the top of the wall and ending up at a different height. That is why. So how do you get Revit to stop from doing this? Well, go into your roof plan, edit your roof, and we're going to use the Align Eaves tool. But before you do anything, choose to adjust height, because we don't want to adjust our overhang. The overhang is constant. We want to change the height of the eave so that they all line up. And of course you folks can see what's going on. Some of the eaves are at -9 inches, some are at -4.5. So what you do when you use Align Eaves with adjust height, pick the height of the eave that you want to be used as the standard, and then pick all the other ones so that they match the first value you chose. So now all of those eaves are aligned and we can finish. And indeed, when we go and look at it in 3D, the eaves are aligned. Yeah, so I probably should have adjusted this eave as well. Now you can notice here you can adjust your eaves in 3D. You could actually create your roof in 3D. When you are working in a 3D view, don't forget that you can use the different faces of the view cube so that you can adjust the sort of orientation that you're in. I'm in a 3D view right now, but what I did was I clicked the top of the view cube to get myself into a plan orientation while I am in 3D. So this allows me to be in 3D and quickly evaluate the changes that I am making to my roof design. So the kinds of roofs that you can create, middle of page 2. So we've talked about your hip and gable end roofs. So again, if I want to make these gable ends, I'll double click the roof and I'll right click the slope lines so that they are not slope defining. So there you can see I've got a couple of gables at this end and then a gable at the other end. Now, once you have some walls in place, how do you fill in those gaps above our second floor walls and underneath the roof? Well, the question really is it going to be the same wall that's going to continue upwards to the underside of the roof? In particular, is it going to be the same finish? If you are doing the same finish of your wall at the second floor as you are going to do in the gable end, then you can simply select your wall and use the attach button. Now, when a wall is selected, you've got these extra buttons up here and we're going to use the attach button, and then pick the edge of the roof to connect that wall up to the roof. So yes, you could do that. Now there'd be a little bit of a problem over here because this wall, if I were to attach it up, only covers part of the opening. So what would we do then? Now the reality is that in both of these cases, those second floor walls don't really get drawn up to the underside of the trusses. The truss company provides their own gable end truss. That spans across the opening, and typically a different finish is put into those locations, so you don't have the same finish going all the way up to the underside of the roof. So what I do is I will take this wall and I'll just copy it up. So how do I do that? Well, in 3D, if I'm working on this gable end, I'll pick a wall and Control-C, copy it to the clipboard. Then what I'll do is I will go to the paste menu and I'm going to paste it up onto my roof plan level. So it started as a wall that was on level 2. I'm now pasting it to my roof plan level, and this is what I get. I get a copy of the wall, and it's just sitting up above. Now, if you want to be really picky about it, you could take this wall and make a new version of it that's just your gable end truss, right? 1.5 inches of lumber, plus the plywood on the outside, plus whatever finish. It's not going to be a 6-inch stud that's going to be up in that gable end. It's just going to be the end of a truss. So if you wanted to, yes, you could go in here and you could make a wall type that is gable end wall. Go into your finishes and define the finishes that are going to be in here. So it would be, 1.5 inches of my studs on flat, and then the sheathing that goes on the outside of that and my finish and so on. So yes, that's what you would do. And once that's done, then I would attach this up to my roof instead. Same thing here. So I'd take this wall, Control-C, copy it to the clipboard, and then from the paste menu, align to selected levels and paste it up to my roof level. And I would again switch this to my my gable end wall, whatever construction I'd had there. And then I can stretch it over in this view. So there's the little dot on the end of the wall, and just stretch it over. And once it's over far enough that it's going to close up that opening, attach it to the roof. So that's a little bit of the sense of how that process is going to work. Now, bottom of page 2. You'll get to the place sometimes where you're trying to get a roof that's over even just over a single family home, and building that roof all out of one roof object might be too difficult. So don't feel like you have to try and fit everything into one roof object. You can kind of cobble your design together out of 2 or more different roof objects. Another tool you don't want to forget about is the roof join tool. Now here you can see that with our gable end, you folks can see that there's a bit of a gap in there, right? So that's obviously got to be fixed. So on the Modify tab, there's the Join Roof tool. Now let's just look at what Revit says. Select an edge at the end of the roof that you want joined. So this is it here. Then Revit says, select the face on another roof or wall to which you want the first roof joined. So I want to join it to this gable end here. And you can see what Revit has done. It's actually taken that roof and tucked it underneath itself to push it back into that gable end inside the wall. So just one more time here, I'll grab this wall from my second floor and Control-C, copy it to the clipboard, and then go to the paste menu and I'm going to choose the truss level, switch it to my gable end wall type, and attach it to my roof object. And again, for the command to work successfully, once you've got the wall selected and you've hit attach, don't pick the face. You got to pick one of those black lines, an edge that you can see, so that the wall can attach correctly. Okay, so we've got an exercise for you folks on the next page of the notes there. So this is in the footprint roof exercise in the share out folder. So I'll walk you folks through on getting this set up. So if you folks go to the BLDG 2800 session 5 folder, we have footprint roof exercise right here in the session 5 folder. So just copy that to your desktop and we'll open that up together. Okay, so if we look at what we're working with here, this is the design right now. So we've got basically a box footprint for the plan, and then we've got a larger rectangular plan for the next story below. So there's going to be a roof that goes over our second floor, and then a couple of smaller roofs that just sort of skirt the front and the back. So we are in the second floor plan right now, and we're going to add a little skirt roof that goes in this zone here right at the front entrance. Okay, so from the architecture tab here, we're going to use the footprint roof command, which puts us into the pick wall tool. Now, in the options bar, the roof overhang is already set to 1 foot 6 inches, which is fine. Now what we want to do is hit the checkbox for extend to wall core. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to pick the second floor exterior wall. No, wait a minute. No, I'm going to pick the first floor exterior wall is what I'm going to do. So here, I'm picking the first floor exterior wall. That's what I'm picking here. That's the second floor exterior wall. So I'm going to pick the first floor exterior wall on all 3 sides, like so. So you get this U-shaped arrangement of sketch lines. Okay, so I am at step 3. Yes. A, B, and C. Yes. Okay. Okay, step 4. On the options bar, set the overhang to 0 and uncheck defines slope. Right there. Overhang is 0. Define slope is unchecked. So we're going to pick this wall right here. So what we're wanting to have happen is that the second floor wall defines the terminus of our roof over the first floor. Now, let's see here. Is there going to be a trim? Okay, no, we're not going to do the trim quite yet. So we're moving on to step 6. So it says zoom in quite closely to the posts. Here they are here. Now instead of drawing these lines in, we're going to use the, where are we using lines? Yeah, switch to the line tool, which is in the top left corner of the panel. So it's this one right here. Change the offset value in step 7. Change the offset value to 18 inches again. So 1 space 6. And check defines slope again. So offset value is 1'6". Defines slope is checked. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start from the top right corner of this post here. And we're going to come downwards to the bottom right corner of the post. Then we're going to come all the way across to the bottom left corner of the leftmost post, the left side post, and then go straight back up towards the house again, like so. So you're going to end up with a sketch that should look something like this. Okay, so this might be approximately what you're looking at right now. So there should be a pink line here, a pink line on the sides, a pink line at the bottom, and then sort of an unequal U shape of lines by these posts. If you don't have this ready, wave at Henry and we'll get you folks up to speed. Alrighty. Now this is not going to fly as a roof sketch, so first of all we've got to use the split tool. So right by mirror, find the split tool right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to split this segment right here into 2 pieces, like that. Then we are going to use the trim command, which works like fillet. And watch what I'm going to do here. You pick the side that you want to keep. I want this to get trimmed to this, and this to this, and then finally this to this. So that's the shape you should have. It would be kind of an awkward looking T. So if you've got this T shape, then you're just about ready to go. We've got a couple more steps to sort out, but we'll just get that going as a start, and any of you that need help, just wave at me and we'll get you going. Okay, I'll get Henry to come up and deal with you folks. Henry needs some help. Yes? This one here, and this one on this side. Yeah, that's right, and then you guys figure out which top and down into the corner as well. And oh, you gotta split it. So undo that last step. You gotta do the split first. Go grab the split. There you want to split that one. There you go. Now you'll be able to trim it. That's right. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I select this one?
Yep.
This one?
Nope. That one. Now, I'm a little suspect here because I'm seeing you've got 2 triangle icons here. So hit escape a couple times. And just window select here and see how many of those you got. So window starting from here. Now, yep. And yeah, you do have 2. You can see down here it says 2. So just click one of them and delete. So just click off somewhere. And then just click one of them. Yeah, you gotta pick the one. Yeah, click that one. Click the one. And delete. Aha, there it is. Okay, and then use the trim command to get those going and after the work.
Alright, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody's pretty good shape. So let's move on over to page 4, and we're at step 12. Now, so if you folks look at, we want these 4 sketch lines right here. So you got to be in modify mode. So hit escape twice to put yourself in modify mode. Hold down the control key and select these 4 eave lines here. Those 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And go into the properties palette over here where it says slope. Switch it from 9 and 12 to just 4. Because of the units, standard units, Revit will assume that to be in 4 and 12. You just put in 4 and you're good to go. And by the way, when you put in a value, there's no need for you to go down and hit apply. Just by moving your cursor out of the properties palette, that is considered an apply as far as Revit is concerned. So you notice here, if I hit 5, move my cursor out, didn't even have to hit apply. Now, that does save you a little bit of clicking, but it also means that if you go in to edit something and you accidentally kick your mouse with your hand, it'll make the command apply even though you didn't intend it to. So just be careful that once you've moved your cursor into the location to edit the value, that when you type it in, don't accidentally push your mouse off so that Revit accepts the command that you want. So these all have to be 4 and 12. And now, step 13, we need to make sure that the eaves are aligned. So we go up to the align eaves command, but do not choose adjust overhang. Always choose adjust height. So now we've got some eaves which are at -6 inches and some which are at 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my 6-inch eave and pick all the others. I'm just going to go all the way around here, just work my way around to the other side so that they are all at -6 inches. So again, align eaves, go to adjust height straight away, pick the -6-inch eave and just work your way around. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, you're in shape. So now it's just these, not these, it's just click on somewhere. You can go like up to. That's right. It's gone.
Yeah,
That was right there.
Yeah,
and then move your cursor out. Here, move your cursor.
I didn't put that.
That's good. And then align, adjust height.
No,
And then look where it connects. There you go.
mine shows a 0 for this one.
Oh, it should be so fine. Right for that. Okay, just select it. Just click it.
Should I press the
Just click it. There you go. And then there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's going on here? So remember in my amazingly awesome paint sketch here, we start from the top of the walls and we go down based on the roof slope till we get to the overhang value that you have defined, 2 feet. Or I guess it's 1'6" for us. So what's happening is that Revit is going out 1'6" and then downwards on the slope that we specified, and that puts us at 6 inches below the top of the wall. That's what that 6 inches means. Now you saw some roof edges, some eave lines, some sketch lines that were at 0. So it means those eave lines were up here. So when we finished the roof, the eaves would not have been aligned. And why weren't they aligned? Well, because we drew, you guys remember, we drew those lines around the posts. We didn't use the pictorial tool to put those lines in around the posts. So those lines would have put the eaves up here. So with the Align Eaves tool, we asked Revit to bring those eave lines around our posts down to where they are with the other inclines, which were put in place using the Pick Walls tool. So now everything lines up. So now when we finish, everything's where it's supposed to be. Now with regards to the commands that you may see after you finish a roof, there's a couple of them. This command you can always say yes to. And the reason it's asking you about this is that Revit detects that this roof edge is embedded in the wall. It's cutting through the outside finish to get to the plywood. So Revit's saying, hey, they're actually overlapping volumes. Do you want me to remove the finish so that the wall can go through it? Yes. Now what you may also see from time to time is that Revit will say, and it looks legit and it looks helpful, there are walls underneath this roof. You want Revit to automatically attach them up to the roof that you've just placed. No. Say no to that one. You decide which walls should be attached up to the roof. Now I've made an upsy-daisy here. You folks can see I've got a hip end here. I don't want that. So I need to take this one eave here, right click on it, and toggle slope defining so it's open. That's what we want right here. So if we go look at this in 3D, this is what we want to see. Now, some of you may have a slope defining line at the back, which would mean you'd get something that would look maybe like this. Which means you'd have a very helpful snow storage solution for your house in the wintertime. Helpful as in not helpful. So if that happens to you, edit your roof sketch and just toggle slope defining on that sketch line right against the wall so that it does not define slope and you end up with the roof line that you see here. Now some of you may be wondering why we are seeing those funny little gray shaded areas in the back. This is a shading mode in Revit. It's called ambient shading. If you go down to the bottom here, not by the level of detail, but this one here, the visual styles, if you go into your graphic options, one of the settings in here is under shadows and it's called show ambient shadows. And it just kind of gives that extra bit of shadowing in the corners, so you can enable that if you want, or disable it. Okay, I'll let you folks go on your own to do the upper roof because that's pretty straightforward. And then do the roof at the back, such as you see on page 6. So I'll give you folks about 10 or 15 minutes to go through those steps.